All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Brews and Wines.
Hold on, I'm going to interrupt you a moment. Can you guys hear us all right?
Oh,
You can. Cool.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
just realized we don't have the external mic set up, so
Right.
it's just the laptop right now.
Yeah.
But if you can hear us, all right, cool.
All right.
Actually sounds better than other times, I
Mhm.
think.
That's intriguing.
Okay,
All right.
well, there
Good
you
to
go.
know. Excellent. All right, good. Well, let's go with that. Take that win. All right. So, welcome to Tipple's virtual wine tasting for this week with Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre, the owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. And let's jump into delightful potables, right? All right. This week we're drinking something that, for a lot of us might seem like an unusual source, in that they have a lot of different options that are in grocery stores, but they have retained, they really do have a lot of control still over sourcing, and they make some amazing wines as well. So they've got a spectrum of options.
Okay,
So Chateau Ste. Michelle,
yes, which I would think of as a grocery store one.
right, and they make some fine grocery store wines,
Mhm.
right? But they also make some really excellent wines
Okay.
as well. This is a single vineyard sourced
Okay,
Merlot. It's a really nice
All right.
stuff. All right. So in the Columbia Valley in Washington State. So if you have not already done so, it is that wonderful time of the night when you pop that bottle open and pour yourself a glass,
okay.
or your significant other, or anyone else who just happens to be around and you want to be kindly to.
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah.
I like to ask interesting questions. As you look at your wine
Mhm.
and you think about getting it to the perfect temperature,
Mhm.
is there a perfect time that you want it to breathe before you actually pour it?
No, because it's going to vary with every single wine.
Okay.
And yeah, and the variation will be from all kinds of different options, right? So it could be the grape, it could be the region where that grape is made. So the style of the winemaker's choice with how big or austere that wine may be. It can be the age of the wine. So there's all kinds of a play back and forth on that. So there is no perfect amount of time.
Is there a range?
Honestly, you can have a young Barolo that needs to be decanted and swirled for 3 hours,
Okay,
right? And then you can have a guy like this, which will give you a little bit of something, but only needs 15 minutes,
Okay.
and it doesn't really need anything. It will
Mhm.
open in your glass.
okay,
So the range is a lot, right?
okay.
There's just a ton of different options on that. So it's hard to
So-
take
So
it.
what you're saying is go to Tipples and ask an expert and say, how long should I keep this aerated before I start tasting it?
I'd say that's
Exactly.
a good response. By the way, anyone else looked at, look, I know, I don't know how many, Merlots you guys are popping open on a regular basis, but for my Merlots, they rarely have such an intensely purple
Oh, wow.
cork, the
Yeah.
bark in it. That is impressive.
That's really cool.
That
How
speaks to
dark
me
it
of
is.
Washington State.
Okay.
Washington State, it tends to have some really nicely big, intense reds without going overly fruity,
Okay.
without a balance. So if they are big fruit, they'll have a
Mhm.
balance, right?
Okay.
But that's kind of why Washington State attracts me again and again.
Mhm.
And I think it should for most Americans.
Okay. Cool.
So, all right. So, like I said, chilling this guy, I chilled this guy for about 30 minutes in the refrigerator, brought it down to around 60 degrees, so close to European cellar temperature. It is not a necessity. It is just something I like to do. So, let's jump to the first slide, please.
Okay. So, I just want to say something. So it's not a necessity. It's what you like to do, except that, it does have to be kept like colder than you can't keep it outside. Like,
Oh, no, you don't want it to be 80 degrees,
Right,
right? Yeah, no,
right.
you don't want it really, you don't want it warmer than in the 70s.
Mhm.
Which it's going to warm up to in our home, right? So we're going to be around 72.
Is it 72? It feels like 68. It's
It's-
very, very cold. I told Jeff I was gonna get a blanket and wrap it around
I finally
myself.
feel good, right? So 72 is that The house is cooling. It was at 74. It's going to 72 now. That I'm home.
All right. All right, you would like for me to share?
Please.
I'm hoping.
I think you
the
just-
red wine is gonna warm me
I
up.
kind of feel like you just overshared. I don't know.
I'm just so cold.
All right, so the Chateau Ste. Michelle Canoe Ridge Estate, single estate, Merlot, rating 91 points, wine enthusiast. Food pairings, beef Wellington, crispy duck pancakes, and on the vegetarian side, a caramelized vegetables of all kinds would work beautifully with these guys.
Like something with caramelized mushrooms and onions.
Right, you want to go like a savory version
Okay.
of the vegetables, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds good. I'm still waiting for you to make some duck pancakes.
Well, I will get on that.
Okay, I know you're actually inspired to do that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You wanna,
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, this guy, we can jump back to us if you
Okay.
like. 100% Merlot on this guy, not blended with anything else. This is all the Merlot grape. Very, very much a ripe version, right? It's 14.8% alcohol. So it's got some.
Okay, yeah.
So two things. We have a higher alcohol.
Mhm.
When you drink it, it does not taste like the grapes are raisinated, right? It's really dark, wonderful
Can
fruit.
you remind me what I'm gonna taste if it's raisinated?
You're gonna taste like, you think about raisins or dried prunes and
Okay.
figginess and that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So give it a sip. And would you say that these are figgy, dehydrated fruit or more of just ripe fruit?
I definitely get ripe, but I feel like it's kind of a weird. I feel like it's like smoothly running over my tongue, but I can feel the tannins gripping while it's doing it,
Mhm.
so it feels like a juxtaposition.
It has a really nice heavy body. It's
Mhm.
very smooth,
Okay.
right? But it has nice tannin.
Yeah.
The tannin's going to grip as it goes across the palate. They're not incredibly aggressive,
Mhm.
but they're definitely there.
No, they're definitely there. I
Mhm.
feel like, yeah, it's gripping as it's running across.
And then I would say because of this, it's not an overly ripe grape. It's not, because it's not dehydrated fruit tasting,
Mhm.
it's got some acid left in it, right?
Mhm.
So it is ripe, but not overly ripe. It's got tannin, which we'll talk about why, because Merlot doesn't always have decent tannins.
Mhm.
This one does. That's a kick up for me, a major improvement.
Yeah, I like the tannins.
Aging potential. These all lead up. That's where I'm going in this guy. So,
Said and tannins and it's 14.8.
right.
What are we at right now? What's the vintage?
This is a 17.
Okay, so we're already at 5 years.
So we're at 5 years,
Mhm.
right? It's easily handling the 5 years. It's got a good another 5 more. Now, would I do 20? I think you're risking it at that point,
Okay.
right? But an easy 10,
Okay.
this guy can hang out. Right, so that's where I would, and once again, much like talking about how long do you open a wine, right,
Mhm.
before you drink it? There's an artistic, thing you take into different aspects of it and you just give a general estimate of what you would think would happen. But an easy 5, obviously, this guy's drinking
Yeah.
great and it's not feeling like it's falling off. So it's got more time in the bottle, but it is plenty open. We're in a really good drinking window for this wine, in my opinion. Because we just popped this guy open,
Mhm.
we haven't had it open long, and it's delight.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's wound up on acid or anything where I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait. Where I'm thinking, I can't wait for this to unwind a little bit and
Right.
become more pleasing.
Right. No, we've had some that are very wound up when we open them.
Mhm.
And then 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the tasting, it tastes like a very different wine.
Yeah, this one is definitely friendly right out of the bottle and character driven. We've got tannin, we've got the ability to have a nice piece of red meat or savory, vegetables with it. You can handle the fat, that tannin, when it combines with fat with your meal, whether it's even cheeses or that kind of a thing, it will cleanse your palate, but it'll react with them and it will enhance the entire experience. And that's
Okay,
the food pairing, the wonderful world of food pairing.
now I have a stupid question with food pairing because of the fact that you mentioned fat.
Okay,
So I normally think of avocados as
Mhm.
going with white wine. But they're high in fat, so.
no, I would say, it's an interesting point, and that's a tough one, right?
Okay.
Avocado.
Because I feel like.
Because
it
I
might
would go with
taste
more like,
good.
I think avocado could go with this, right?
Mhm.
If you were to do something like a, some kind of, because it's got a richness of fruit,
Mhm.
so it could handle some spice. So if you had like,
I'm
some,
just wondering if you're calling avocado spicy.
no, I'm
Okay.
saying, so if you had a spicy meat dish with the avocado was like a savory smoothing agent in there,
Okay,
right? So some kind of, that could work well.
okay.
Yeah, and I don't mean like, it's not, you're not gonna slather avocado on a steak, though. Now that I say it out loud, I don't know why I've never done that. Seems like it would be good. But mostly like, like a ground beef thing with
Okay.
some spices. This could go nicely with that. That'd be
Okay.
fun.
Okay, so we have avocado and enchiladas or chorizo or
Yeah.
something would be good, yeah.
Right. I agree.
And then avocado is nature's butter.
Right.
Great flavor carrier, yeah, absolutely.
I think,
So I just never thought of it as going with like a red.
yeah,
Always-
I've never really worked at placing avocado, but yeah, I would go more red because you want something that can handle it with a tannin. If I put it with a white, I would want a high acid white
Mhm.
for that acidity to work with the fattiness in the
I
avocado.
was just thinking if you're going like with a vegetarian, the vegetarian side of things,
Mhm.
and you're not, but you want something that's gonna add a bunch of fat to carry the flavor.
Right, I can picture what, I've never had these, but I'm just
Mhm.
once again spitballing here with the idea. If you had a mushroom stuffed with goat cheese and avocado
Mhm.
with this wine, I think that would be amazing.
I've never heard of that. so
I've never heard of that either, but I think that would work really well.
Okay. And then Chris said, literally just said Robin would pick something acidic to counter the fatty avocado and acidic white wine.
In a white,
Yeah,
right,
and that's normally what I think of as with a white wine, but since you were, it's fatty,
right.
so.
And I would want something like, I'm thinking Italian white, something sharper, and
Sure.
but something with some oomph too, because I wouldn't want a Pinot Grigio. Most of them are too light to carry that off, even though they have the acid. It would be something, maybe Verdicchio.
Okay.
Anyway, different
Okay.
discussion. So,
All right, and then we have, I'm having blueberry goat cheese
Oh.
and pairs well.
that
Oh, that
is
sounds good.
awesome.
Yeah,
That would be a
yeah.
fantastic.
I didn't know
pairing.
if that was Linda or Paul that wrote it. Linda, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Blueberry goat cheese,
Yeah,
fantastic
that's
call. Absolutely. All right, so
Sure.
barrel aging before we.
Okay,
All
sorry.
right. So I did the aging. Now it was made with 18 months on oak. So it's had a hot minute, right? 54% of it was new French oak.
Okay.
So we're talking about the French oak is a little less aggressive.
Yeah.
Not throwing vanilla and dill all over the place, more spicy and helping with the tannins, getting to round them out and get them less edgy,
Okay.
right? And then 11% new American oak. So yeah, you do have a toasty quality in there, but they only used 11%. The rest of it was neutral.
Okay.
Yeah, I put in the rest was neutral because I didn't want anyone to say 54 plus 11 doesn't equal 100%. But it was the way they described it on the website. They didn't put in the rest was neutral.
No,
I thought,
I'm just
I'm
thinking.
throwing that in. I know my crowd.
Anyone should say that.
I didn't want anyone to point out that 54 plus 11 is not 100.
Who would do that to you? I can't
So
imagine.
definitely a chocolatey, wonderful barrel driven quality on this guy, though chocolate also comes from the grape. But it's not overly barrel. It's not a vanilla bomb.
Mm-mm.
Vanilla bombs on Merlot is what ruined Merlot's reputation.
Oh, that's specifically. what
That
it
was it, that young oak,
Huh.
American oak, overwhelming it, flabby growth with no tannins. You ended up with basically what was like almost like a vanilla plum dessert.
Oh.
That was why its reputation was destroyed
Okay.
temporarily and why it's climbing back.
Well,
And that
why
is,
it needed to climb back.
Right.
Yes,
so, oh, good, Consuelo.
yes.
All right,
Well,
excellent.
she's here twice. Nope, now she's here once.
All right, so we covered the tannins, the oaking. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
So I was just bringing up Merlot and its problematic reputation after a certain movie, right? What people think of Merlot. All coming from the movie Sideways.
Yes.
Which
yeah.
is,
This is a quote from Sideways.
that is a quote from Sideways. That's
I
what it's
hope
saying.
nobody's offended by the language, but it is. a
Hopefully
quote
not,
from
but that is what that's what they
Yes.
say. That was the moment
That was the moment
that
it ruined
beat
Merlot.
Merlot up and threw them on the ground. It was a very not nice thing to do to poor Merlot. So, but here is what I think people tend to do once they have a really good Merlot like we're having tonight.
Okay, so that's the
Next slide. There we go. There we go. You discovered, oh my God, Merlot is good. There's a reason so much Merlot is in the world.
Ready?
This is also why our password this week was, yes, you are.
Oh, because you are going to drink.
You
tonight.
are drinking the effing Merlot.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
So that was it. Okay. Next one. All right. So the label review. Chateau Ste. Michelle. All right. So we've got the winemaker. Canoe Ridge Estate. So we see right on there, this is a single estate and it's estate grown.
Mhm.
So with the state being on there, we see that that is controlled by Chateau Ste. Michelle. So they're not buying these grapes, they're controlling them from the beginning.
Mhm.
And it's within Horsehaven Hills, which is within the Columbia Valley, within this, Washington State. So you're going many levels deep on this guy,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
So all of those things make me feel
More and more
better
and more
about the wine.
specific.
Yeah, all those specifics, the more specifics. If I don't know anything else about the wine, the more specifics, the better I feel. And that's kind of the thing. So you're walking through a wine store, no one's there to help you. It's not always true that a great wine needs specifics, as we've had some that do not, right? But the more specifics, the better. And then this one, it almost kind of counters the fact that you might be walking through the store. Maybe you want a Merlot and you want to go next level. And you're looking at it and you're saying, well, this is a $35 Chateau Ste. Michelle.
Mhm.
And I keep seeing $9 bottles of Chateau Ste. Michelle
Right.
at the grocery store. What's happening here?
sure.
But all these levels of specifics really would kind of explain, oh, this is a different beast. This
Right.
is not that same thing.
Mhm. Wait, let me ask you a question about this. Is
Mhm.
this representing wind or water?
Wind, well,
Okay.
it could be wind and water because
Okay.
of where it's being grown,
Okay.
which we will cover that kind of, they both matter.
Okay,
They both affect this
well,
wine.
that's what I was thinking.
That's really cool.
I know.
That's really
wind-
good graphic art because it just said that to you.
I know wind affects it a lot normally, and then how close they are to water, and
Mhm.
so I wasn't, yeah, and it's blue,
Right.
but it could be either one.
You know what? Congratulations to that graphic artist because they just nailed it evidently. So we look on the back, special sites collection. So you see it's something that they're paying special. You see, okay, this is a special division kind of thing.
Okay, here's the thing though, if I saw that because of what you've told me about reservas in the past.
Oh, right.
I would think, okay, well, that's marketing.
Oh,
That
and it
means
is
nothing.
marketing. You're
Okay.
totally right. It means it's nothing official,
Okay.
right? But because I know what they're doing here, it tells me, okay.
It means something to you. To
Right.
me, I would go, oh, that's just trying to lure me in
Right.
and not telling me anything.
Definitely the more important thing is the Horsehaven Hills,
Mhm.
the Canoe Ridge Estate. This is estate grown, estate controlled, and estate vintage. So you look down here on the little one, produced and bottled by Chateau Ste. Michelle.
Okay.
Right. So it's completely controlled by them. They're
Mhm.
not buying these grapes. They have a lot of pride in what they're doing. They give you some discussion about the area, which we'll cover anyway. So there's no point in getting into that. The flood deposits of the minerals and all that kind of thing. So we'll cover into that. So got the alcohol content down here, contains sulfites, which are naturally occurring. So, and then they talk about down here, it's Live certified and Salmon Safe certified.
Oh, I don't
So-
know what Live Certified is, but.
It's part of a sustainability
Okay.
program. You can get real specific, but you can it's easier, just wrap your mind around it real quick. It's like, it's just a sustainability.
Sure.
So.
Okay, so you have said two things.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stop the share a moment. All right. Which one killed Merlot? Did Sideways kill Merlot? Or did the vanilla barrels kill Merlot? Because that's a question.
Okay,
Not vanilla barrels,
they
the
put
oak
it,
barrels.
they
that
put it
did-
in the movie because those wines existed.
Okay,
So, California realized Americans love big fruit
mhm,
and that Merlot could do that, right?
Mhm.
And this was in the 90s. And so they just blasted a ton of this not optimal version
It's like, how do I say this nicely?
of
Not
the
optimal.
wine. It was just pedestrian and lame. And so, yeah. So real wine drinkers, especially people that enjoyed the French version
Mhm.
of Merlot, were offended, and justifiably so. It was just this, it was one of those things where it would come across as sweet because it was so fruity, but it didn't actually have residual sugar, so technically not sweet. Like I was saying, that's what sweetness is, one of those things that is actually measured in wine. So you can say, all right, they were technically dry wines because it didn't have the residual sugar, but it had so much overdone and overblown fruit. And then you put in this young oak, and so you just, it's like pouring it. Once again, I think vanilla cream poured on top of plums would be a delicious dessert, but I don't want it to be my wine.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure.
So
Yep.
that's kind of the thing.
Okay.
It almost came across as like a plum creme brulee combo.
I would have loved that back in the
Back in the
early
day, right.
90s.
And a
when
lot
I
of
was
people
in
did,
college.
And a lot of people did, and they sold plenty of it, right?
Yeah.
But the dry wine lovers, people
Yeah.
drinking the French
Not
style, we're not into it. And
Right.
then it became such a thing, even people that were enjoying it dropped it.
Yeah. Well, no, I could see, well,
So they didn't want to
thing
be
is-
the person drinking Merlot. It became persona non grata.
it's amazing to me how much as a country, our palate seems to have matured as well. Because I mean, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, I was drinking wine coolers and they're just not in stores anymore. So
Right.
I
Well-
guess, as a country, we just got a lot better with our.
Things drift.
Yeah.
And once again, one of the things to keep in mind is even if you're drinking barefoot in the sky, right? You're drinking wine. You're in the game.
Sure.
And you're in the game where you can then move on. Like, in our early 20s, we were drinking
Sweet wines.
Schmidt's own Riesling,
Mhm.
a shout out in my 20s, so anyway, and we moved on from there. It's you're in the game, you're drinking
Right.
wine.
Right.
And so it's not me, like,
So-
I might tease a little bit, but I'm never thinking, oh my God, you're drinking garbage. No, you're in the game,
Right.
and you could be on the path.
You're drinking a gateway wine.
Linda Paul calling me out, justifiably so, because they talked to me off air, but
Is it my facial expressions? Because, it's just, yeah, I'm gonna stop.
I mean, we were drinking gateway wines back in.
right,
It
not
lets you
everyone,
in.
not everyone moves on,
Sure,
but
No,
a percentage of people move on.
drink what
Yeah,
you like.
In the 90s, yeah, which is why, I describe certain wines as astringent, so if I think back to early college in the 90s, I didn't like certain wines because my association was something that isn't anything near or close to what we're drinking now. So there's definitely, like you said, an evolution and everything else, but especially with Zinfandel, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, so I'll stop.
Yeah, no, and Dr. Ferguson,
Boone's
Boone's
Farm.
Farm,
All
back
right.
in the day.
Yeah, I gotta say, Boone's Farm, I don't know if you're actually in the game for Boone's Farm. I think that one,
Back then I thought I was.
yeah, right. The Strawberry Hill.
89, yeah.
Oh, by the way, to Chris and Robin, they were talking about the H3.
Right, I was about to mention that.
I don't know, I cannot remember who owns H3, but I will say this, for being a widely available wine, if you're at a place that just has, you don't have any kind of real specific little H3 overperforms. Like
Yeah.
that's one of the ones, if you're there, like the substance wines and the H3 wines, and you're like, okay, I'm at a place, I'm trying to get a bottle of wine and they only carry major brands and nothing a little more unique.
Mhm.
That's a good one to grab. I mean, I will say,
There you go.
I drink it.
Oh, Dr. Fricker said that was his daughter-in-law that put Boone's Farm. Yep.
Well, That's right.
Absolutely.
that one pushes me a little bit. That's like, it's kind of like, Mad Dog 2020 is technically a wine.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't think you're really in the wine game if you're drinking Mad Dog.
Okay, so there are certain wines that you will judge people.
Yeah,
for.
I will. I think Thunderbird might actually be a wine technically.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure those don't count.
Okay.
That's not in the game yet.
Okay, all right. So we'll get back in the game.
I went as far as I could with barefoot. All right. So, all
All
right,
right, here we go.
but I included them.
Yes.
So Merlot, the name derived from the word, the French word merle, which means blackbird. They have that very black
Sorry.
grape. Now, it is a bit of a point of contention. Were they calling it after the word merle for the blackbirds because they kind of looked so black, or because the blackbirds were annoying the heck out of them eating all their grapes? It may be some of both, right? So, but that is the history on the name. Oh, stop sharing for a minute. We didn't officially cover all the scents and everything. I
did
kind of got
not.
rolling with the questions.
Mhm.
And anyway, so aromas: blackberry, plum, chocolate, a little toasty character. What are you thinking? Like maybe almost a little bit of a savory note, right? What are you thinking? But mostly about the
Yeah,
plum.
yeah, I'm
Mostly
getting
about the
blackberry, plum,
toasty, but
chocolate.
not a ton of like. There's a vanilla quality, but it's not overwhelming.
No.
Yeah, almost a bit of an earthy quality. I like the way it kind of dries out even on the nose. Very much like a baker's chocolate.
Yes.
So not a crazy rich chocolate.
Mhm.
And see, it has opened up while I was gabbing all that time. Which I think is about as much as it's going to open, you know.
I need more.
Well, obviously you're enjoying it.
Sorry.
No, the tannins have
Normally Jeff
inflated
is
a little
on
bit.
that, but there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Thank you.
Really nice tannins. I like the balance on this. I would say, I mean, the fact that I keep noting, I'm trying to decide maybe a graphite quality to go with the cocoa, but it's more of a like, you know, like a coffee grounds baker's chocolate, but it's
Yeah, I
not
don't
a
like
sweet
graphite.
note. Mhm.
So Robin says chocolate covered blueberries.
I do love that. And that's the bigger notes,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, that's, and
Mhm.
obviously there's definitely blueberry, blackberry, red plum, not a ton of that, which is even a little darker than a lot of them. Merlot can be a little bit strawberry, red plum, but this guy goes darker, which I love.
I don't get strawberry at all.
This is one of those, which we'll talk about, that can be almost a pretender, which are my favorite ones. They can
Okay.
pretend to be
other
a
things.
cab,
Okay.
right? They could fool you in a blind tasting kind of thing. God bless you.
It's because it's so cold in this house.
Mm.
He's just
Nice.
ignoring
I
me.
am. But fresh fruit, it's not cloying in any way. It's not building up as if
No.
it's too fruity.
Yeah.
I'm ready for my next sip.
Mhm. Yeah, because
That's
I
right.
really am sensitive to things that are cloying.
I'm gonna tell you, I have had plenty of French Bordeaux that was just as dry and balanced as this. I think this is a high quality wine. I like the balance. It's a big wine, no doubt. Like, right, we talked about the depth of color on the cork.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's not a big wine, but it balances out with dryness and secondary characters of, you know, spice and
Yeah.
chocolate and earth and that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I'm very happy with that. I think it's great. Any thoughts from you guys? Anything that you're tasting that I didn't mention?
Yeah, so we're getting, Gail says tobacco.
Like it? Yep.
Mhm. And does that link onto that earthy quality? that you're
Yes.
saying? Okay.
Because it's a vegetal note without getting snapped stem or pea, you know, like
Okay.
that kind of a thing. It's because it's kind of a, yes, it's a vegetal based
Mhm.
flavor, but it's much more in that cedar, you know,
Okay.
very pleasing quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I think this is for Robin's mom. These specifically remind me of the Brookside chocolate covered fruit that we used to get.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that. Yeah.
I'd say that we've had those too with.
We
the
have, because they're
chocolate
not
covered
overly
fruit.
covered. It's not a bunch of sweet chocolate, right? It's a
It's-
darker
It's
chocolate
nicely
and
covered.
real fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not candied fruit.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I like that very much. All right, let's jump.
Maybe some eucalyptus or something similar to that has that sort of menthol is not quite right, but there is a sort of like
Yes.
astringent like thing when you drink it, and it kind of like prickles a little bit on your
Almost like
tongue.
How about
Yeah,
muddled?
yeah.
Chris, would you consider muddled mint?
Yeah. She just said like almost like a mouthwash. And I was
Oh,
like,
there you go.
yeah, I could totally see like a little bit, like it's not minty, but it's like a
Yeah.
if you got a cocktail and you went back and you're like, oh, what was in this? And you're like muddled mint. You're like, oh yeah, all right. I see
Okay.
that. I
Right.
feel like it's in like that category.
Right, and it's not overwhelming. It's part of the high note on what you're breathing in, right? When you
Mhm.
breathe it in, you're like, I'm getting all those other big ones that we've already covered. And like, there's a note of something here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like a little muddled mint, something fresh mint,
Mhm. So, Cheryl and Chris are disagreeing
Okay,
about, he says he's picking up the greenness of the American oak. Cheryl disagrees.
all right. It's definitely a combo. The American oak does let itself be known.
Mhm.
Because there is, especially on as you go from mid to back to the mid palate to the finish. I agree that there is. It's good that it was only 11% because it would have taken over, right? There is a real kind of that fresh young oak kick in it. It would love to go full on vanilla, right? But there wasn't enough of it to do it. So I can see it like it's like because you're drinking it, and I think the French oak leads. Which is
Okay.
wonderful. It's just kind of a nice mellow, spicy work. And then as you move to the back, there is almost a kick up of
Mhm.
where you're transitioning to the backside of the sip. And yeah, there's an oakiness in there that's almost a little bit like a white oak.
Okay.
And I tell you, because I have white oak in beer as well, that's why I say that white oak styling, where it goes there, where it kicks up.
Mhm.
And once again, it's kind of like the mint, where it's not a major part of what you're sipping. It's just a piece of what's hitting on highlights, on there. It's like, okay, the shine on the apple is a little, okay, I could identify that.
I would think that too, because it is this hint of it. It depends on how sensitive your palate is to it,
Sure.
because I'm not getting that you're getting.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because your palate's much more sensitive to it than mine. So I can see like a disagreement about it between, like I always defer to you with wine and beer, always. But we have food that I don't think is spicy at all.
Right.
And you're fanning yourself
Oh,
about.
yeah.
And I think that's just a palate difference.
No, I agree.
Mhm.
It is.
So I think sometimes when it's subtle like that, it's something that one person absolutely is tasting, the other person absolutely isn't, just because
And
of
I
their
think
palate.
part of that is exposure too. Because we use white oak in the beer
Mhm.
world.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So I've had these things where I'm tasting white oak and I
Mhm.
know what it does. And so I can attune to it a little bit. It's exposure to
Yeah.
for,
Yeah,
part of it.
absolutely. And then let's see, Chris says he did get some oakiness, but nothing overwhelming. Definitely leads on the French oak and a hint of vanilla on the back end. So like you, like the white oak call.
All right.
And like white oak highlight,
Right.
which is the beer.
But that's the main one that we have.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
the most recent one was different, but
It's not a beer show.
no,
It's a wine
we'll do
show.
that separately.
Okay. What would you like for me to move on?
Yes, please. All right. So Merlot, taste profile: cherry, plum, chocolate, bay leaf. Hey, how about that?
Okay. So
Bay leaf.
that goes right
Yeah.
along with that earthy, herby.
Right.
tobacco
We're kind of
everything
hitting
about
all
it.
around it. And honestly, I like the bay leaf call very much.
Do
I
you
know.
do this?
I did, but I don't memorize every slide. I got a lot going on. And like, I like to think it shows that it's a genuine tasting when I'm going through here.
That is true.
I don't just memorize or write down ahead of time what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's a fresh tasting, and I tell you what I'm thinking. When you're watching me do this is what I do when I taste wines to bring them in the store.
Oh, true. Yeah, we haven't mentioned that in a while. When you taste wines, you're taking notes like this and you're mentioning all of those different
I am,
things.
yeah, I do
Yes.
that, and I have a great time with my reps. So, well, I don't know.
Some
If
of
any
us
them-
get to drink for a living, some of us don't,
Look,
you know.
I'm not saying that I tasted 20 wines today,
Nice.
but I might have tasted 20 wines today.
Okay, well,
So anyway,
I taught 30 children today, so there you go.
hey, it's work.
Mhm.
It's good work when you can get it. So, here we go. So bay leaf, I love that call on there, you know, where we're going. And honestly, I've seen some with mint listed as a
Mhm.
potential note in there. Vanilla, absolutely, it'll pick it up.
So when we look at that vanilla, the vanilla varies widely in Merlots.
Yes, wide.
Okay.
Right. You can have it buried in vanilla. You can have it where it's just not even present at all. So like the taste profile, they have it as bone dry, right? Roughly.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about the ones that cause the ruckus, it would have been at least a full step up
Okay,
on the dryness level. Medium to full bodied, it is a full bodied wine, which is great. I like a nice, you know, I feel a nice solid mouthful, it's something heavy. Medium to high tannin, there are plenty of them that had almost no tannin. But you know, there's Cabernet Sauvignon that has no tannin.
you keep saying that.
Oh, I've had it. You don't want it. It's fine.
I don't want that.
But medium acidity, very cool. Yeah, that works for me. And up to 15% ABV, we're on the higher end.
Right, we're,
Right.
yep. Almost done it.
So I think that was super helpful and lined up with a lot of what we're
A lot of it.
experiencing,
Mhm.
right? So next slide, please. So native to Bordeaux, France. So we are down here. It is Merlot is the child of Cabernet Franc and a rare grape called Magdalene Noir de Charente.
You're supposed to be able to pronounce all these things.
I just
It's
said
in
it.
French.
Magdalene Noir de Charente. All right.
Okay.
So by the way, so that means that Merlot is related to Cabernet Sauvignon. Right, so we're like, thank you, Mr. Cabernet Franc, for all your wonderful children. Cabernet Franc, two
They're
red grapes.
delicious.
You know, yeah, right, they are. So Cabernet Franc with a white grape makes the more intense red grape of Cabernet Sauvignon.
That's so interesting.
Cabernet Franc with another red grape makes the more mellow Merlot. Same thing with Carmenere, but anyway, Cab Franc and of course Cab Franc on its own is delightful.
Mhm.
So black skinned, white fleshed grape, intense color and flavor. You got to work a little harder to get the skin to thicken and get you tannin on this guy than you do with Cab. Cab tends to give you easier tannins,
Okay.
but you can grow it poorly and get a lot of astringency. So Merlot is more mellow, but you can make it tighten up.
So you're making it tighten up by where you grow it because the environmental factors.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
You are. Which would be wind and altitude usually, right? Those are big factors. Next slide, please. All right, so, and those actually apply directly.
Oh, we saw this graphic last week.
Yes, I realized I can use it again. Merlot is the runner-up of the red wines in the world, even with the hit from the movie.
Because it's a blending grape?
It's a blending grape, right? So it's still vastly dominantly grown in Bordeaux in France. It is the most grown red grape in Bordeaux, France.
They never did what we did with it.
Right. No,
Okay.
they thought we were idiots. So
I mean, we
not
were,
that they wanted to drink the wine that they were making fun of in the movie. They didn't want to drink that wine.
right.
So
They just thought Americans didn't know how to make wine at all, except for the ones that were in
the
the
judgment of
competition.
Paris.
Yes.
Right.
When was
So-
that? Like 78 or
That
something?
was 76, if I remember
Okay.
correctly. So Cabernet Sauvignon is number one, but Merlot is not far behind. It is.
It isn't.
There's a lot of Merlot grown in the world. In most circumstances, it is in a red blend.
Mhm.
In France, many times it is the dominant part of the blend. In most of the rest of the world, it is the minor part of the blend.
Okay.
But there's enough of it that it's still a huge, hugely popular grape.
So what is it in France that they're wanting to get that that they have a higher percentage of
Well-
the Merlot, and then the rest of us aren't doing that?
They really appreciate the color, the flavor, because it's really close to Cabernet Sauvignon
Yeah.
anyway. And they don't want it to be overly astringent and tannic, right? They want a balanced tannin. And when we drink Bordeaux
Mhm.
Rouge, right, you'll hear me say time and time again, oh, the balance on this guy is what's impressing me.
Mhm.
So you end up with this thing where you have the fruitiness and the spice and the tannin and the acid is all right at the same level. And it's this incredible balance. And that is what they are really looking for.
Okay.
And so when you start with something that is workable, like Merlot, you get a lot of the qualities you want. And you say, oh, no, it's not quite as tannin. I'm going to put some cab in, right?
Okay.
Oh, and I want a little more lift on the aromas. I'm going to put a little Cabernet Franc in.
Okay.
And this thing where I'm able to say, oh, what they're going to want with each one of these pieces is why I enjoy drinking them solo.
Okay.
That's why I get excited about
Sure.
things like when I will, once in a while, will drink something crazy like a Carmenere. Well, not Carmenere is not crazy. Carignan,
Okay.
which is like drink 100% Carignan, because I want you guys to know what it's bringing instead of
Right.
saying, oh, well, there was 5% Carignan in this Côte d'Aron root.
And we have no
Right.
idea why. and
Why?
what it
Yeah,
means to it.
why?
Yeah.
And so that's the fun thing about drinking a 100% Petit Verdot, like we did from
Mhm.
Wine, right? So you can see why would they put Petit Verdot in there? Here it is. And then to kind of bring it back together and drink this balanced Bordeaux beauties, and you know why these people are magnificent. You know, they know what they're doing.
They do. They've been doing it for a very, very long
They
time.
have. So it can fool you. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
hang
So,
on.
so if we have another, is it cab live tasting, we can expect that there will be a Merlot in there somewhere.
Well, don't give it away.
I mean, it's in
Yes.
one of
yeah,
eight.
that makes sense.
Yes.
So here we are. So we have intense outer skin, but not as thick as Cabernet Sauvignon, which is where you have to really kind of work on it a little bit to thicken the skin to get those tannins. And like I said, altitude or wind or both
Mhm.
tend to help thicken those skins and get you that additional tannin. When done properly, it can fool you and become hard to tell one from the other between Cabernet Sauvignon, the most popular grape,
Mhm.
it's the most popular grape in the world, let alone most popular red grape in the world. And Merlot can be this, right? There's no reason for Merlot to be maligned.
Okay, but if I were buying a vineyard
Mhm.
in California,
Right.
this is easy to get wrong.
No, it's really not.
It's
And
not?
It's really, if you're going to
Okay.
grow good Cabernet Sauvignon, you can grow good
No, no,
Merlot.
no. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
like they thrive in almost the exact same growing conditions. Now you can stress them a little bit, like you're
So
not
just
going to
don't
get,
do Oak barrel and,
well, I mean, you can, but like careful, right?
Okay.
But the bottom line on it is if you grow them in the same conditions,
Mhm.
you're going to get more tannin in the Cabernet Sauvignon,
okay,
right? But that doesn't mean you won't get enough tannin. It just depends on what you're going for. If you want something that's really gonna peg your tongue to the roof of your mouth, all right, you're probably going to have to go Cabernet Sauvignon or Tannat or something like that. But it doesn't mean you can't make an amazing wine. So,
ready?
yes. All right, where in the world are we? The northern latitude, west coast of the United States, way up here. So we're in the upper third,
Mhm.
more like the upper quarter of the growing latitude.
It'll be the
currently.
third soon, don't worry.
It'll be
about
the,
it.
yeah, it's, this is all moving on up. All right. So here we are up in Washington, we're here.
Okay, we're pretty far inland.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned water, I was thinking we were close to the Pacific.
It is a river system.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
So here we are with the Columbia Basin. This was at one point a sea,
Oh, okay.
right? So it's basically a desert now, which you can see by looking at it.
Mhm.
It's a more of a higher-ish elevation, about, almost 1,000 feet above sea level though. So,
Okay.
right. So a higher elevation desert for the summer. They do get rain in the winter. It's kind of
Okay.
perfect because you get to strengthen your vines all winter when they're
Mhm.
not producing and you're not diluting the grapes. And when they're producing grapes, there's almost never rain. So it works really, really
Yeah.
well. Quickly cooling nights allows you to slowly ripen because they do have intense days. And in areas, and especially in our area, we're talking about down here on the southern part. Because we are down in the Horsehaven Hills, right along the river here, right? They have a lot more wind.
Okay.
So you have elevation, you have wind, which will talk about thickening the skins,
Mhm.
giving you more character. What it does also here in the water part, the river down there prevents late frost. It warms earlier,
Oh,
right?
that's nice.
So when the vines bud out after winter
Mhm.
and they start growing their leaves, they almost never get nipped by a late frost.
That's nice.
So what we're dealing with on this specific area,
Mhm.
right? It's not just Horsehaven, but Canoe Ridge is an area that is able to bud early, stay dry all summer after a good wet winter,
Mhm.
and have a long hang time to really mature slowly, cooling every night
Without a bunch of water.
without a bunch of water diluting it and the wind thickening the skins. And so that's where you get all of it coming together
Yeah.
to make these great grapes.
So, okay, you described that that's like great conditions for Merlot,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and Cab.
Mhm.
This is going to sound stupid, but isn't that like the right condition for every grape? Long hang time, not a lot of water at the end, like, you know, like,
It's good for all the Bordeaux varietals.
okay,
Right, it would be a little warm for Riesling,
okay.
right? So there are varietals that wouldn't work there. It's gonna be
Okay.
too warm for Chardonnay. Chardonnay. Chardonnay can do a lot of things. Chardonnay is actually a pretty flexible grape.
Okay.
But if you wanted to go with a really lean champagne style, acid driven,
Mhm.
then no, so it just been, but Riesling, that
Yeah.
Pinot Grigio will grow there, but it's not going to be as good. It's
I
gonna be a
liked
little
that,
longer.
that first Chardonnay from last night. I like the second one too, but I like the first one more.
Oh, good.
So see, I said something nice about.
Said something nice
Chardonnay.
about Chardonnay. I'm
Mhm.
holding on to the counter to stay up.
Yeah, and you have video evidence as well
Right.
now. See, there you go.
That's right. So in this area, all right. Talked about quickly cooling nights, hot days, long growing season. Soil composition was created 13,000 to 15,000 years ago with the Missoula floods. A glacier melted, creating a lake the size of Lake Michigan today.
Oh,
Massive lake that then the ice dam broke and it all flooded out and it brought in all this volcanic soil all over everywhere.
Huh.
So you end up with a ton of distribution of volcanic high mineral soil and sand all over the place. And that's what they're really growing. So sandy, volcanic, high mineral content soil, which we will see as we go forward.
okay.
There it is. So, I mean, you look at it, like, look at all the green. Look at no green.
Yeah,
Like, it's a desert.
yeah.
It may have a river, but that
No,
is,
it doesn't look verdant because
Right.
it just looks, you're just seeing where the vines are and that's it.
Right.
Everything else is, yeah.
Yeah.
Very desert.
grapevines incredibly robust.
Well, yeah, unless you grow them in, the seventh highest humidity place in the country, which is here,
Yeah, right. Just,
or number one in the state
You
for
know,
humidity.
I feel like I have a lot. No wonder I like wine so much because,
Helps you deal with the humidity.
no,
this
no,
year?
because that's it. That's the thing, is because those grapevines would despise humidity.
Oh, okay, that's.
I too despise humidity.
I know that you do.
Yeah. All right. So, and here we are again, right? You just look across the river and it's all sandy, piled up desert.
Again and again, there are places that I would look at it and think, well, nothing can grow there, clearly.
Right.
Grapevines. I just feel sorry for the vines because they're like sad and worried the whole time. and That's why they're doing this.
They do stress them on purpose. to
Yes, I
Increase the
feel badly for them, but
quality
they
of the
do
grapes.
produce very nice fruit.
Yeah, right. It all works out. They come back the next year to do it again. So Chateau Ste Michelle.
Okay, and you can see French influence in this building.
Right.
I mean, yes,
Well-
it looks like a French chateau.
It
Mhm.
certainly does.
Mhm.
That was instrumental in the name, actually.
I
So-
would think so.
Established in 1934, right after the end of Prohibition. On the original site was a mansion from a lumber baron.
Okay.
from the 1912s or whatever, but that had nothing to do with making wine. So, I mean, interesting, but
Mhm.
so it is now, they now have 3,500 acres
Wow.
within the Columbia Valley. It was changed to the name, it was originally named Saint Michel Winery.
Okay.
It was changed to Chateau Ste. Michel in 1976 when they tore down the old place, built a brand new chateau styled, French styled winery.
Mhm.
But it really is named after the style they chose. So that's the chateau part.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Canoe Ridge is where this wine comes from, was planted in 1991.
Okay.
Right.
So now we're dealing with 31 years.
Right. Yeah, their stuff. 30 years is a great age for grapes, 20 to 30 years.
Mhm.
So they're in height of production and quality together. After that, they'll make really great quality, but the amount of fruit per vine will begin to fall off.
That's where you've talked about the old vines before. Okay.
Yeah, which they produce this incredible wines, but
Mhm.
the production keeps going down and down, and the winemaker, they've got realities to talk about,
Sure,
so they have
sure.
to decide. So, will you go to the next slide, please? Canoe Ridge, by the way, sits on, these are more just around the winery
winery.
itself. The Canoe Ridge sits on an ancient lava flow, so it has extra high minerality.
Huh.
Very intense minerality, proximity to the river, Canoe Ridge, the river, I mentioned this before, I jumped a little ahead. It moderates the temperatures so that they don't get those late season frosts,
Yeah,
and they
that's
get a longer time to ripen. They actually have two separate wineries now, Chateau Ste. Michel.
Oh.
Yeah, they actually vent the white wines at one and the red wines at another.
Huh.
I mean, they're both not that far away from each
Right.
other, but they do have two separate ones.
That's interesting.
So, and I mentioned, because it was on the label, that these guys are sustainable and salmon safe. So, looks like quite the lovely place to go visit.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
This is dumb. Salmon safe?
Yeah,
Like,
because they're by the river.
okay. Because so they're not, I'm just not sure how they would affect salmon because they're taking too much water or because they're like, there's runoff from the.
I would guess
vineyard?
mostly runoff. I think it's a reasonable question,
Okay.
actually.
Because they're not fishing them,
Right.
so,
Well, the Mason Cups have been here many a time.
okay, so.
And they
you're-
lived
you're
in the
gonna throw
area.
that to them?
So Justin, do you know any more specifics about salmon safe other than don't take too much water and keep control of your runoff?
No, I would guess it's the Columbia, right?
Right.
So I would guess it's just related to runoff because they're way upstream there.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I would guess runoff.
Okay. All right. It looked like Laura was saying that she knew, or Linda knew. I'm pretty sure.
They're like, no, don't put me on the
I
spot.
know.
Justin, by the way, you handled that really well.
That was great. Thank you, Justin. All right.
Go ahead. Do you
Yes.
want to do it or?
No, you do.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You would like for me to share again?
Yes, please.
Okay. It doesn't want me to share. What did you do?
No.
There we go.
There we go. All right.
Next.
Next one, please. All right. So this guy has consistently 90 plus points, right?
Mhm.
90, 91, 92, 90, that kind of thing. So, like we say every week, that is with a grain of salt, right? It's a major winery. They're putting it out there. You can think of it as you want, but keeping in mind that if it is a well-made wine that you want to drink again, the industry leans toward 90 for that.
Okay.
Right, wrong, or sideways, right? That is kind of what they do.
Sideways.
Sideways is back. So, when you look at it, it's like, was it well made? Does it have some special characters for the area and for the grape characteristics, rather?
I was
Aaron.
about to call you on that.
Yeah, that's right. Characteristics for the grape or for the area that make it kind of stand out a little bit for you, right? And for the price point, all of these things are melded together. So, in the industry, even though an 85 would be, hey, that's a very good wine, you should probably drink that. It's considered usually a failure. And they hide that number, which is a shame. They will put out 88, 89s, they'll actually publish.
Mhm.
But anyway, this guy's generally considered to be a fairly outstanding wine. So, bearing all that in mind, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I'll stop the share.
Hmm.
And we'll start, let me scroll back here. Easy 92 from Chris. I am also good with that rating, says Robin.
All right.
I love how she didn't just put same.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Linda, 91. And then we have Linda and Laura, 91. Brenda, 92. I thought John was just out of camera, but evidently he's not there. Salmon Safe Vineyard certification. Oh, okay. Justin looked it up for us.
Oh,
Reduce runoff and enhance native biodiversity of your vineyard.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank
That
you.
that is an extra bit to it to enhance that native
Right.
biodiversity.
It might be like, let some bugs live so they can get in the water. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then 90 from Chris and Cheryl. So from Montreal's, they say 90 from both of the Frickers. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, okay, and then Consuelo 91.
Okay.
Justin 92, easy to drink right after opening.
Right.
I would agree with that, absolutely. 90 from Rick and Gail, and I don't normally enjoy Merlots, but I enjoyed this one from Linda.
Very nice.
Yeah, well, maybe your attitude is going to change toward Merlots. See that?
Well, I think if she drinks a couple more glasses, her attitude will change.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Alright.
I would have done a 90. I mean, Cab is going to be my favorite.
Mhm.
Well, I really like Syrahs into, but but no, I very much enjoyed it. I mean, I was asking you for a second glass.
Right,
so-
yeah, no, that was, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with the scores I'm seeing. It
Mhm.
looks like it was enjoyed across the board.
Mhm.
I really, it's a really well-made wine, you know? And I didn't want to hold a winery. I don't think it's fair to hold a winery to I don't want to say the lowest common denominator, because there's nothing wrong with a Tuesday, Wednesday wine, right? There's nothing wrong with producing more casual bottles, right?
Right.
But it is what they're more well known for, but they clearly make some other really
Right.
nice stuff. So,
Right.
I really thought this was quite good. And it goes to show that we can pour a really nice glass of wine when it's not always, this is the fourth generation and this
Oh,
is his
right,
grandson and only 3 people have ever seen the vineyard and, that kind of thing. Those are awesome. I love those stories.
Yeah.
But you can have a bigger story and have great wine.
Sure.
Right.
Yep. Oh, and then so Ricky and Gail say our bottle has now been open for 2 hours, more spiciness, and it's improved with time,
Oh, nice.
which is great because that's like what you want to see, right?
Right.
And then we thought ours also had some spice now on the back, been open for an hour and a half. And ours has been open for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, really nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. That makes me
Mhm.
happy. So, well, it makes me happy every time. If everyone got done and they said.
So
"What were you
every
thinking?"
time it would make you happy, if everybody was like, 85, 70, that would make you happy?
No, it makes me happy when they like it.
Oh, when they like it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought.
I mean, I know
thought
I
it was
haven't,
Difference, like that makes me happy. Oh, it makes me.
I
happy
really
to
haven't
have
had a
this
week
too.
where it's like, oh, sorry, everybody, but that would suck.
That would, you have had weeks where you've gone to give me a second glass and I'm like, oh, no.
Well, I call those wines that you can appreciate.
Sometimes I
Right.
do appreciate the complexity, but I'm just not a fan of the flavors, just because,
No, I get it.
yeah, it is what it is.
All right, let's thank some sources. Thank you. All right, Wine Folly, always amazing resource, everybody. 750.com, Wikipedia, wine.com, Chateau Ste. Michelle, of course, great Northwest wine and winery. What was I typing?
Is it Hung Washington?
I'm not sure what it was. It doesn't seem right. Winery Hung Washington.
Can we go visit that winery?
Great. All right.
Okay, so we'll move on.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
Sorry, I didn't even do my drum roll for this one. I was just
All
thinking
right.
about how hung that winery was, sorry.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna get a warning. All right, so next week we're having rosé. We've not had rosé in a hot minute. It is hot out. It is time to drink some rosé. This one is a really cool rosé. We'll talk about why it's so interesting next week, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So the Finca Wolfer Rosé. We are headed to Mendoza by way of New York State.
Really?
How does that make any sense? You're gonna find out next week.
Yeah.
So Willy Wong, 89 points, right? So right up there at that threshold. He agrees with me that it's awfully tasty. Food pairings, because it's a little more of a robust rosé, right?
Okay.
So pork chops, feta and spinach tartlets, mango ceviche or paella,
All of that sounds fantastic.
right?
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
welcome for putting that in.
So I'm wondering if, because you've been complaining about like our extreme humidity the last couple days, if you're like, oh, we definitely need a rosé.
Honestly, we had not done one and we should have. We should do one at least twice a year.
Sure.
Rosé is a good wine, you know, so. And this one really just happened to come across. It was just released. Rosé was released late this year.
Oh, why?
Rosé, no, COVID, transportation issues. So all the rosé people have been freaking out because they're thinking if they don't deliver by February and get in the stores by March and the beginning of April, they're going to not sell their rosé.
Okay,
So when these things are being presented to me in August,
right.
the winemakers are kind of freaking out, but
Right, no,
but this was
sure.
really, really good. So I
Okay.
grabbed it right away. I think it's delicious. I think you guys will agree, but you can tell me next week.
Okay,
In the meantime,
all right.
thank you so much for coming by tonight and enjoying this delightful Merlot with me and Elizabeth. Elizabeth and me.
Mm-mm. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.